Sanguinius, the primarch of the 9th Legion Blood Angel Space Marines, is one of the most respected and revered primarchs in the Imperium. He is perceived by ordinary citizens as one of the symbols of humanity's beauty and power. Despite the mutations of the primarch, which bestowed upon him enormous angelic wings, it is unclear whether they are part of the Emperor's design or the result of the primarch's journey through the warp. Perhaps they were caused by the radiation-infected planet Baal, where mutations were common. But genius manifested not only through beauty and charisma. He was also one of the most formidable warriors of the Imperium. His mastery was so great that even Leman Russ, the proud and boastful primarch of the Space Wolves chapter of the Space Marines, acknowledged Sanguinius as the only primarch he could not defeat one-on-one. During the Horus Heresy, Sanguinius was proclaimed ruler of a state called Imperium Secundus, created by the primarch Rabute Gilliman, to preserve the largest part of his father's empire. Although Sanguinius reluctantly took on the burden of actual rule in the new Imperium, he refused to accept the title of emperor and insisted on being called only regent of his father. Eventually, Sanguinius, with his legion, found a way to Terra and participated in the defense of the Imperial Palace alongside Jagatai Khan, the primarch of the 5th Legion of Space Marines, the White Scars, and Rogel Dawn, the primarch of the Imperial Fist's Space Marine Legion. Sanguinius followed his father when he accepted Horus's challenge and went to storm the Vengeful Spirit, the flagship of the Warhound's fleet, to help the Emperor destroy the arch-traitor. However, the Imperial forces were divided upon teleportation and materialized in different parts of the ship, leading Sanguinius to encounter Horus before the others. The two primarchs engaged in a duel, but Sanguinius was significantly outmatched by the favored of the Dark Gods and was ultimately killed. The primarch's death unleashed a powerful wave of psychic energy and struck all warriors of his legion. Since then, some of them have fallen into a berserk state on the battlefield, shouting battle cries and slogans from the time of the Horus Heresy and launching furious attacks on the enemies of the Imperium. Over time, these symptoms worsened, because the psychic response spawned a serious defect in the gene seed of the Blood Angels, known as the Black Rage. Since then, Sanguinius has been elevated to the rank of saint. Throughout the Imperium, temples in his honor have sprung up, just like temples dedicated to his father. Moreover, the day when the primarch of the Blood Angels made his sacrifice is still celebrated in the Imperium as a holiday called Sanguinala. It is a day when people remember and pay tribute to the feet of the Angel Emperor. Sanguinius's body was evacuated from the Vengeful Spirit and taken to the planet Baal, where he grew up and found his final resting place. On this planet, a grand structure known as the Golden Sarcophagus was erected. But will the Angel Emperor rest there forever, or will the time come for his return? The most obvious path to resurrecting their primarch, which the Blood Angels themselves are unlikely to allow, is cloning Sanguinius. And an even greater wrath of the Legion warriors will be provoked by the fact that there is only one person in the entire galaxy who possesses not only the necessary knowledge, but also the experience of cloning primarch. And that person is Fabius Bile. Fabius is the chief apothecary of the Emperor's Children Legion, known for his inhuman experiments, extensive knowledge of the primarch's genomes, and experience in creating perfect clones. Fabius created multiple incarnations of the primarch of the Iron Hand Space Marine Legion, Ferrus Manus, which were subsequently killed by the enraged demon primarch Fulgrim. He also created a clone of the primarch and master of the 16th Legion of Space Marines, the Lunar Wolves, Horus Lupercal, who was killed by Abaddon, and then a clone of the primarch Fulgrim, who was given to the Necron Lord Trazyn the Infinite in exchange for samples of the pure and warp-untainted gene seed of the Emperor's children. Furthermore, Fabius possesses samples of Sanguinius's blood, stolen as a result of a daring operation on Baal, from an artifact known as the Red Grail. Thanks to a deceived apothecary named Kikus, Bile was able to breed on Baal a new type of mutants, bloody spawn and distorted space marines of the 9th Legion, afflicted with the Black Rage, who kidnapped blood samples of Sanguinius for him. And even when the sergeant of the Blood Angels, Refn, stumbled upon the artifact known as the Red Grail, he unwittingly facilitated Fabius's plans. After a series of intriguing events described in the novel Black Rage, one of Fabius's clones was finally reached, who had samples of the Primarch's blood with him and fought with him. It turned out that the Lord of the Clones had long analyzed these samples and no longer needed them.
Miserable sight. Look at yourself giving your life for a few drops of liquid. It means a lot to you, doesn't it? And yet you cannot grasp its full potential. Take it, and pray to it for as long as your pitiful life allows. But know this, your precious Sanguinius will not save you, nor will your silently approving Emperor. I kept this relic only for the collection, and I will be able to create more specimens as soon as I leave this place. In fact, I don't even need them anymore. I have extracted all the data that the Primarch's blood could give me, and I no longer need it. It is useless.
And despite the fact that Fabius's clone was killed shortly after these words, it did not prevent the apothecary from obtaining the data he needed, as Fabius had repeatedly shown the ability to exchange information quickly between his clones. So, although Fabius organized this operation to obtain data that would help him clone the Emperor himself, the apothecary has all the capabilities to create a clone of Sanguinius. However, the main problem with this plan will be that the clones of the Primarchs retain their memories to some extent. The clone of Horus, for example, recognized Abaddon the moment he saw him, which led to his death. Also, the clones of Ferrus Manus remembered certain events from the time of the Great Crusade, and during a conversation with Fulgrim, they behaved extremely aggressively when he spoke of betrayal. Also, Sanguinius may behave extremely aggressively towards his creator, although Fabius is clever enough to anticipate this and take appropriate measures. Nevertheless, the clone of Sanguinius may have a strong emotional connection with Bile, as, for example, the clone of Fulgrim did, who perceived the apothecary as his father. Although this may have occurred solely because Bile himself carries the gene seed of the Emperor's children Primarch. There is another being capable of bringing back the Primarch of the 9th Legion to the mortal realm without creating a copy, namely, resurrecting him. This is Ivrain, the emissary for the newly awakened elder god Aenead. Ivrain has demonstrated her abilities to resurrect the dead many times. She not only reanimates dead organisms, but fully restores living beings to life. This is further detailed in the book Gathering Storm, Fracture of Biltan, where Ivrain resurrects Eldari Prince Iriel after he was killed by the demon Prince Nurgle during the Battle of Iyanden. Ivrain revived the body of Prince Iriel, who turned out to be one of the swords of Vol, and brought him back to life. In the same book, we see that Ivrain's abilities to resurrect are not limited to representatives of her race only. Later, during the battle inside the Webway against the Thousand Suns, Ivrain demonstrated her abilities to Arsec Ahriman. Namely, she was able to dispel the rubric curse from a small group of Space Marines, restoring their bodies and consciousness to the state they were in before Ahriman cast the rubric in an attempt to save his legion from mutations. This shocked the sorcerer himself, but before he could come to his senses, all the resurrected legionnaires were killed. Thus, Ivrain's demonstration of her abilities to resurrect both Eldari and Astartes suggests that resurrecting a Primarch should well be within her capabilities. Moreover, before Ivrain helped heal the Primarch of the Ultramarines Robut Guilliman, he was tethered to his armour, created by the great Archmagos Dominus Belisarius Call, and serving as a life support system, allowing the Primarch to live despite the wounds inflicted by Fulgrim. So assuming that Ivrain has decided to help humanity bring back the Primarch of the Ultramarines Robut Guilliman to life for the sake of victory over the forces of chaos, it is quite possible that she will someday also go to Baal with the goal of resurrecting Sanguinius. But there is one important detail that could hinder Ivrain: the soul. When Ivrain resurrected Prince Iriel, his soul was inside an object that every Eldari continuously carries, inside a spirit stone. Similarly, the golems and rubrics are not just magical armor. They are the souls of Space Marines trapped inside their power armor, while the soul of Sanguinius and its part remained at the site of his death, inside the vengeful spirit. In the novel The Talon of Horus, The remnants of the souls of loyalists who died during the assault on the Horus battle barge took the form of crystal statues. Chaos Sorcerer, the Lord Vigilator of the Black Legion Iskander. Kayon noted about these statues. I ran my gloved fingers over one of them, almost expecting its eyes to snap open. There was life in these statues to some degree. Someone's grim presence lingered behind closed eyes. They resembled faint echoes of life, similar to what is felt in rubric marines, but at the same time they were different. Looking at the crystalline tongue and closed eyes, I understood why the feeling was so familiar. These were remnants of a soul departing its body and getting trapped in mad moments before falling into the hands of demons. These statues appearing on the ship were nothing but fragments of the soul of Sanguinius himself, which is further described in the novel Black Legion. These statues appeared everywhere on the ship, and no matter how many of them were destroyed, they constantly regenerated, but not necessarily in the same place where they were broken. Some Black Legion space marines perceived these statues as a bad omen, while others hardly paid any attention to them. Nevertheless, these episodes indicate that a significant part of Sanguinius' soul remained on board the Vengeful Spirit, and it is quite possible that because of this, the resurrection of the Primarch may prove to be an impossible task. However, in the novel The Devastation of Baal, there is an episode where the master of the Blood Angels, Dante, was on the verge of death. As a result of the battle with the tyrannid creature known as the Swarm Lord, Dante had a vision in which he spoke with Sanguinius himself. The Primarch praised Dante for his service and dedication. Dante asked Sanguinius to ease his death, but the Emperor's angel replied that he would not allow the Master of the Order to die as long as the Imperium needed him. Could this mean that Sanguinius' soul is not entirely bound to the Vengeful Spirit? And could the vision of the Master of the Order be something greater than just a hallucination? Either way, even if Ivrain cannot resurrect the Emperor's angel, there is still one thing that might be within her power. The Proteus Protocol is a forbidden technology that allows transferring human consciousness to an artificial host. Such a procedure was conducted by the Inquisitor Gregor Eisenhorn when he found a crystal containing the soul of the heretic Pontius Glor. Eisenhorn struck a deal with him, the heretic's knowledge of the warp, demons and their vulnerabilities in exchange for a primitive mechanical body and sensory organs. Although the Inquisitor warned that Pontius would have no freedom, even the faint hope of returning to the real world was too desirable for him, and he agreed without hesitation. Unfortunately, Magos Bure, Eisenhorn's friend, for unknown reasons, created not just a mechanical body for Pontius, but a true work of art, nearly invincible in battle and possessing a wide arsenal of deadly weapons. Perhaps Pontius somehow deceived the tech priest, but in the end he got what he wanted, and then killed Magos Bure and left his prison. In a similar way, it could be possible to resurrect Sanguinius by placing his consciousness into a specially created artificial body. However, this would be a blasphemous act of heresy, using forbidden technologies by the Emperor to revive his own son. It is also unclear what will happen to the Blood Angels subjected to the Black Rage when their Primarch returns.